I'm Jessie Budzinski. I'm here today with Holly Plotnick, and she is an adjunct in our Human Services Department. And she's going to share some of her experience in the field with us today. So, Holly, if you don't mind, just starting by sharing your educational background and some of the work that you do in the field of human services.
Sure. My education, actually, I have an undergrad in computer engineering from Purdue. So that's my
Oh,
undergrad.
wow.
So I spent 18 years doing that, and then decided I wanted to be a social worker. So I went back when I was 42 to get my master's, my MSW.
Love that.
I completed that in 2020, and then was COVID and was bored and had time on my hands. So I thought, why not go get a doctorate? So I received my DSW in 2023. So that's kind of my quick educational background.
Well, and I laugh, but I think that's probably so relatable to so many of our students because so many of our students are kind of here. I mean, this is like our tagline for a comeback, right? But like they've maybe tried other things, other
Mhm.
fields, other careers, and now they're pivoting later in life and looking for something different. So that, I mean, I think a lot of people can really relate to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. I mean, it was definitely a pivot to a
Yeah.
completely different world in many ways. But I think, it does help me, I think, relate to adult learners because,
Hmm.
like, I've been there. Like, I've been
Yeah.
there with families and jobs and all the things while you're trying to, get an education. So I definitely get the balance of all the different ways you're getting pulled for sure.
Well, this wasn't a question I was planning to ask you, but I feel like I often ask students this when I interview them. So, what, as an adult learner,
Mhm.
what helped you to persist?
Uh, I think, well, number one, it was my kids. To be
Mhm.
honest, my kids were little. I have a son and a daughter. My daughter was the younger one. And I kind of, once I started, it was really hard, but at
Mhm.
that point, I was already like committed and I wanted to, I guess, show my kids and myself, to be honest, that I
Right.
was capable of doing something different. And when I thought about after 18 years in the corporate, IT consulting world, I kept thinking like I have a lot of years still that I'm going to work. And
Mhm.
is this really what I want to do? So I think that kept me pursuing, something different.
Right.
And just showing my kids that like you can do anything and there's no time limit, I guess was really the like, I have clients or I have students that are like, oh my God, I'm 25 and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm just like, oh, you got all kinds of
That
time. There's
time.
not a time limit on,
Right.
what you can, when you can change. So I think it was those things that just, it was, as an adult learner, I was really more self-motivated,
Mhm.
um, and compassionate about that versus when I was an undergrad, I was like, what do I need to do to get out and get a job?
Right.
So it
Right.
kind of changed a little bit my perspective as an adult learner, of the time I was spending doing it. And so, like,
I love
that
that.
time was valuable.
Right. Right.
I didn't want to spend it on things I didn't want to do.
Right. And I think that aligns with a lot of our students and a lot of adult learners in
Mhm.
general. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing some of your experience in the social work field?
Sure. Yeah. So I started after graduation. I worked at a psychiatric hospital for inpatient for 2 years as I was getting my supervision for licensure.
Okay.
It was crisis management for the most part, inpatient. I did my internships prior to that in foster care. So that was
Okay.
both of my internships were foster care. And then I worked for an agency initially, briefly doing just individual therapy. And then I went to work for our county, for one of our counties that I live in, doing what we call wraparound services.
Yep.
So I don't know that they're in every state, but basically we're like the end of the line before, um, kids get removed from their home or get in
Okay.
residential, or they're kind of at that breaking point where parents have tried all this and they bring us in to kind of, all right, let's see what we can do. I did that for 2 years and then got my license during that time and decided I
Yep.
wanted to open a private practice. So opened a private practice, did that full time for a year and was like, full time's too much. I can't do this full time. So I went back to work for the county. So right
Okay.
now, that's where I'm at. I landed. So I still have my private practice. So I have like about 5 to 7 clients at any given time.
Okay.
I work part time doing child welfare training. So I train all new child welfare practitioners that come into the county.
Wow.
And then here, teaching
Okay.
here. So those are like 3 part-time jobs really. Um, but I feel like it gives me I get very antsy, and so
Yep.
it gives me a good I'm still in touch with the field. I'm training, so I know, policy changes. I kinda know that side, and
Right.
then,
Right.
teaching, which was ultimately when I got my doctorate, that ultimately was where I wanted to go, was higher ed. So,
That's great.
um,
That's great.
yeah.
So do you feel, I mean, that was a huge transition between
Mhm.
careers.
Yeah.
So are you happy with the change?
I am. I think, I mean, to be vulnerable and be real, financially, it was a huge
Mhm.
change from
Mhm.
IT consulting in, federal government to social work.
Right.
But I'm doesn't really drive me. So yeah, I am happy I made the switch. I actually wish I would have made it sooner. I
Mm.
do look back and go, God, if I would have done that like 5 years earlier or 10 years,
Right. Right.
um, but I didn't know what I didn't know at that
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
I don't know if I would have been the same journey had I done it earlier.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, in this field, in human services in general, there's
Mhm.
so many different things to do. And like if I get bored or I'm like, I don't really want to do this, I just go find something else. And I
Right.
mean, always jobs. There's always jobs
Right. And I
in
was
different areas for sure.
Yeah, and I was actually gonna mention that the experience that you shared highlights that because we do talk to students about that. Once you get a degree in this field, there's so many different
Hmm.
opportunities with populations, settings, type
Yep.
of work you're doing, so
Yeah.
that was a great example of that.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about in terms of highlighting some skills that you feel like are really important for students
Hmm.
to have that you've had to have in these positions?
Yeah. So, I think for me, the biggest, I don't know if it's a skill per se, but it was eye opening to me was like knowing your implicit bias, knowing your
Mm,
biases
yep,
and how your experiences really impact how you perceive. And it doesn't matter necessarily what type of role you're in the
right,
field, but you're always interacting with another person, family, child, adult, and you come with experiences and you come with biases that you don't even know you have, to be
right,
honest.
right.
And for me to do a lot of self reflection when I first got done and went out into the field, it was an eye opener to be like,
Mhm.
wow, okay, right. I have privilege because I'm white. Wow. Just because I was born white, I have this. And oh my gosh, because I would always be like, well, I don't have privilege. I grew up poor. And, so I was always like,
Right,
that
right.
doesn't apply to me. But it really does. And I think that is a skill, being able to be self reflective, vulnerable, and just
Mhm.
really put yourself out there to be like, oh, yeah, like I made that mistake. I'm so sorry. Like I didn't
Right,
even
right.
recognize it. Or just being able to really like check yourself,
Yeah,
honestly, when
yeah,
you walk in the door of any position or any population or any so for me that was like the biggest like flip that I
okay.
made. And asking questions, being
Yeah,
curious, huge skill.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
Always learning, always asking questions, always growing because the field changes like all the time,
constantly. Right,
so fast,
right.
right?
Yep,
And
yep.
so yeah, that to me, those are two big things that I think are super important because you can honestly teach. You can teach the job. You can teach
Right, right,
documentation. You can teach systems, right? Like if whatever system an agency's using, you can kind of teach that stuff. The stuff that is harder to learn when you get into the
mhm,
field, especially if it's a new field, like if you have
right,
switched. um, is those soft skills. It's the things that like you have to practice,
Right.
which
Right.
I think, depending on where you go in the field, like you are called a practitioner. And there's a reason for
Absolutely.
that.
Right.
I mean, I
Right.
think you're always practicing, you're always learning. And when you think you have it, something changes.
Right. No, it's so true.
Yeah. So I think for me, those would probably the biggest, skills that, engaging, being curious, asking questions, and just like self reflecting all the
Yeah.
time.
Those
Um,
are that's great. I mean, that's such great information for students to hear. And I think one of the big differences between human services and social work is that social workers have that practicum, right? That
we
internship, and
do.
they get all that
Yep.
hands-on experience. And
Hmm.
in human services, it's not a requirement. And for our students, an internship is optional.
Yeah.
So I always try to plug it as much as I can because
Hmm.
getting that hands-on experience is so important. So,
Yep.
if this is a student listening to this, that internship elective is really important, or
Hmm.
volunteering. There's other ways to
Yep.
practice those skills.
Absolutely.
Or once you get into the field, having someone supervise you and working with you as you learn
Hmm.
those things. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much that needs to be said for that hands-on piece
Yeah.
and
Yeah. There
practicing.
is. There is because again, the academics. I mean, you can learn, you can teach, and you can lead, right, those soft skills, and you can bring them up. But it really takes commitment on, I think, on the part of the individual,
Right.
when you get into the field. And volunteering, I mean, that's a great way to. And I would say volunteering is a great way to figure out the things that you don't like to do, or the
Right. Right.
populations you don't
Yes.
feel like you want to work with, because that it's a lot easier to find the things that are more difficult for you, or it's not your jam, if you will, you
Right.
know,
Right. So
than it is
true.
to find what you're really like, oh, this is what I love.
Right.
And so doing those internships or doing that volunteering, just getting yourself in there, can help facilitate those that you're like, oh, I can't, like, I know, I like my internship was in foster care, and I was like, like
Right.
I can't do
Right.
foster care because that is on the other end of CPS, where I was like, it was way much for me. And I knew that is not the field, that is not the area I'm going to go,
Right.
right,
That's
the
such a great point.
population. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, do you have any advice for students who would be watching this?
Oh, goodness. Um, I would say, again, I keep going back to being curious, meaning like ask the questions, build a network, get to know people that maybe are not directly aligned to, I mean, I have a ton of network in foster care. I have a ton of network in other areas that I'm not going to ever work in again, but like they are great to have.
Right.
Find that mentor, find that person, even while you're still in school. Find the person or a group of people that
Yeah.
you can vent to, you can ask questions, you can be vulnerable, you can feel comfortable, because it does make a difference,
Right. Right.
getting through. Because I mean, human services is hard. It's hard work, and it can impact you, depending on
Absolutely.
what population you're in or where you work. So to have those people, or that even that one person that you're like,
Right.
oh, today was hard, right? Today was really hard. Um, and so I would say, like, while you're in school, when I got my master's, I mean, I still talk to a handful of
Mm,
individuals that I went through the program with. We
that's
still
great.
connect, um, and and we're in different states. We do completely different things, but
Right.
at the end of the day, it's still human services, and it's still that support, um, community that's
Right.
like, oh, I really had a bad day today, right? Like, and you're like, oh yeah, like I've been there. That stinks,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say that is one advice. Just take advantage. Oh, take advantage of seminars, please.
That's good advice. Yep.
The more you engage with your cohort, or the people that because you tend to see the same people a lot of
Right.
times as you go through the program. Being live and actually interacting with them in person when you have the opportunity, I think is huge.
Yeah.
And it really does enrich, I think, the experience
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
of the program in general. So I would say for me, that's the big is yeah, you gotta just try stuff, and you gotta have your people um,
That's great
to
advice.
lean on. Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else that I have not asked you about that you wanna share?
Mm, I don't think so. I mean, I tell, like I said earlier, I tell everyone like it's never too late, to pursue what you
Absolutely.
want,
Yep.
and um, especially, I mean, for undergrad, like you got all kinds of time. So like you may think you know what you want, you get out there and you're like, wait, this doesn't feel right. Okay, do something different.
Right.
Try something
Right.
else.
Right.
Because even in human services, like you could be a case manager, you could be at like, there's so many options, and you're not going to want to do everything,
Right.
and that's okay. So I would say just try things and get your people, and I think those were the two things that I think got me through.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah,
Thank you so much for
you're
sharing today with us,
welcome.
Holly. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, thank you.